The last shimmer of the Solarian system's simulated sunset bled from Stellara's bedroom viewport, painting the vast curved wall in hues of lavender and deep indigo. Outside, the real universe held court. An endless, glittering tapestry of nebulae spun like cosmic cotton candy. Galaxies spiraled in slow, majestic dances, and the pinprick eyes of countless stars watched back. Stellara, who preferred to be called Stell, didn't need the simulated sunset to know it was time for bed. Her internal chronometer, a gentle hum just beneath her ear, was perfectly synchronized with Starlight Haven's cycles. But the sunset was a ritual, a comforting lie against the truth of perpetual starlight. She curled deeper into the plush gravity cushion of her bed, her fingers tracing the swirling patterns of the holographic star map projected onto her ceiling. Every star, every planet, every charted anomaly was there, a miniature universe spinning above her head. "Good night, Stell," a soft melodious voice whispered from the corner of the room. It belonged to Lumi, a small bioluminescent creature that floated lazily near her bedside console. Lumi wasn't exactly an AI, nor was it a pet in the traditional sense. It was a symbiotic life form, bioengineered to resonate with human emotions, its shifting colors a mirror of Stell's inner world. Tonight, Lumi glowed a soft, tranquil blue, interspersed with faint, shimmering gold dust, a reflection of Stell's quiet contentment, but also her underlying sense of wonder. "Good night, Lumi," Stell murmured back, her voice a sleepy echo in the quiet room. She reached out, and Lumi drifted closer, settling lightly on her outstretched hand. Its gelatinous form pulsed gently, warm and comforting. A faint, sweet scent, like ozone and starlight, emanated from it. "Did you see the new comet drift past Sector Gamma 7? Lumi's glow intensified with a burst of golden sparks. "Indeed, Stell. A magnificent trajectory. Your father noted its unique silicate composition. He hypothesized it might have originated from the Cygnus arm, an unusual deviation." Lumi's voice, though synthetic, carried an inflection that made it sound almost excited. Stell smiled. Her father, Dr. Aris Thorne, was an astrogation specialist, charting the safest and most efficient pathways through the interstellar medium for the colossal generation ships and orbital habitats like Starlight Haven. Her mother, Dr. Lena Thorne, was an exoplanetary xenobotanist, dedicated to cataloging and, where possible, terraforming new worlds. Their work often kept them far away, sometimes for weeks at a time, but always connected through the Haven's omnipresent quantum communication network. It was a life Stell was accustomed to, filled with the hum of distant engines and the promise of discovery. "It's beautiful," Stell sighed, turning her gaze back to the ceiling projection. "But not as beautiful as stardust." Lumi's glow softened, the gold dust settling into a steady, warm shimmer. "Ah, stardust. Your favorite stellar anomaly." Stardust wasn't its real name, of course. On the official star charts, it was designated AKE Keys 7032 Delta Prime, an F-type main sequence star, relatively young, situated some 2,000 light-years from Starlight Haven, deep within the Perseus arm. To the Haven's advanced long-range optical arrays, it appeared as just another bright pinpoint among billions. But Stell had a unique connection to it. She discovered it herself, purely by accident, during one of her nightly stargazing sessions. Her room in Starlight Haven wasn't just a bedroom. It was her personal observatory. The entire curved wall, from floor to ceiling, was a seamless optical display, capable of zooming in on any celestial body within the Haven's colossal observational range, and even beyond, linking into the network of deep space telescopes scattered across the void. She spent hours there, sometimes with Lumi perched on her shoulder, sometimes alone, letting her imagination soar among the nebulae. One night nearly a year ago, while randomly scanning a distant patch of sky, she'd noticed it. A star that seemed to flicker. Not dimming and brightening like a variable star, but with an almost imperceptible rhythmic pulse. A subtle quickening thrum that seemed to call to her. She'd tried to analyze it with her room's basic analytical suite, but it had registered as a normal F-type. No anomalies detected. But Stell felt it. She'd called it stardust, because that's what it looked like to her. A tiny living spark of cosmic dust, winking just for her. She had told her parents about it, of course. Her father had run a quick scan from his console, confirmed it was Kia 7032 Delta Prime, and gently explained that sometimes optical interference or even her own eyes could play tricks. Her mother, ever more attuned to the subtle energies of life, had simply smiled and said, "Keep watching it, my little explorer. Sometimes the universe speaks in whispers only the most patient can hear." Stell had taken that to heart. And so, every night, after the simulated sunset, after her homework was done, and Lumi had settled, Stell would return to Stardust. She would project its image onto her main viewport, zooming in until it was a tiny shimmering jewel against the black velvet. She would lie there, watching, feeling its pulse in her heart. Tonight, however, something was different. As Stell focused her attention on the projected image of Stardust, Lumi, still resting on her hand, began to pulse more rapidly. Its blue light deepened, and the gold dust swirled faster, almost agitated. "Stell." Lumi's voice was tinged with a new note, a hint of concern. "The stellar anomaly you refer to as Stardust. Its energy signature has shifted." Stell's eyes widened. She sat up, pushing the gravity cushions away. "Shifted? How?" "Display sensor readings for KS 7032 Delta Prime," she commanded the room. The holographic star map above her vanished, replaced by a complex array of spectral graphs, energy flux charts, and gravimetric readings. Stell, even at her young age, understood the basics of stellar cartography. She'd grown up with it, just as children on old Earth might have grown up with stories of trees and oceans. The graphs for Stardust were indeed different. Its usual F-type spectrum, while still dominant, showed an unusual amplitude modulation. Not a natural stellar pulsation, but something more deliberate. A pattern. And the gravimetric readings, usually stable, now displayed minute, rhythmic fluctuations, like a faint, distant heartbeat. It's stronger," Stell breathed, her heart thumping with a mix of excitement and a touch of apprehension. "The pulse, it's clearer now. Lumi, zoom in on the specific anomaly signature. Filter out background stellar noise." The viewport sharpened, the data streams refining themselves. The faint, rhythmic fluctuations on the gravimetric charts became more pronounced, forming a distinct wave pattern. The spectral amplitude modulation resolved into a repeating sequence of energy bursts, almost like a code. "The probability of this being a natural stellar phenomenon is decreasing," Lumi stated, its tone more analytical now, less emotional. "The pattern is highly organized, non-random." "It's talking," Stell whispered, her fingers pressed against the cool surface of the viewport. "Stardust is talking." A thrill, electric and profound, shot through her. She had always felt a connection, a whisper from the star. Now the whisper was becoming a voice. She tried to access the Haven's main astrophysical databases. Cross-reference KS 732, Delta Prime's current anomalous signatures with known intelligence signals or unusual cosmic phenomena. The room hummed as the Haven's vast data cores churned. Seconds stretched into a minute, then two. Finally, a message flashed on the screen. "No matches found in standard databases. Anomaly signature unique." Stell slumped back against her cushions, a pang of disappointment mixing with her wonder. Unique. That meant no one else had ever seen anything like it. Or if they had, it wasn't catalogued. "What does it mean, Lumi?" she asked, her voice small. Lumi floated closer, its blue light softening again, the gold dust returning to a gentle shimmer. "It means, Stell, that you have discovered something truly extraordinary." Her mother's words echoed in her mind. "Sometimes the universe speaks in whispers only the most patient can hear." Stell had been patient. And now, the whisper was louder. She thought of her parents. They were both brilliant, dedicated. But they also followed protocols, established scientific methods. They would want empirical proof, peer review, weeks of analysis from multiple long-range observatories. Stell knew that if she told them now, they would be intrigued, perhaps even excited, but they would also be cautious. They might even dismiss it as an advanced optical illusion, especially given her previous discovery of the same star. They were on a crucial deep space survey mission to an uncharted gas giant in the Andromeda-Perseus inter-arm void, their attention fully absorbed by their xenobotanical and astrogation duties. A personal communication could wait. A stellar anomaly, however intriguing, would likely be relegated to a background analysis queue. But Stell couldn't wait. The pulse of stardust felt urgent, personal. She scrolled through the data, trying to make sense of the repeating energy bursts. It looked like a waveform, a modulated carrier signal. But without a key, without understanding the language, it was just noise. Beautiful, intricate noise. Then she noticed something else. Within the gravimetric fluctuations there was a subtle, secondary pattern. A sequence of rhythmic pulses within the larger rhythm, like a sub-melody in a complex piece of music. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but her unique sensitivity to stardust seemed to amplify it. Stell, your neural response patterns are elevated, Lumi observed. Are you experiencing distress? No, Lumi, not distress, Stell replied, her eyes fixed on the screen. It's, focus, excitement. Look there in the gravimetric data. See that secondary ripple? Lumi projected a focus beam of light onto the specific section of the graph. Acknowledged. A subharmonic oscillation, previously masked by the primary signal amplitude. Could it be? Coordinates? Stell wondered aloud. A location? The thought sparked a new wave of energy within her. Starlight Haven was a marvel of human ingenuity, a self-sustaining city, orbiting a carefully selected, resource-rich gas giant. But it was also a fixed point. For all its wonders, Stell sometimes felt the immense yearning pull of the unknown, the vastness beyond the charted lanes. Her parents explored, but always within the parameters of their mission. Stell wanted to explore for herself. She knew there were protocols for communicating with potential extraterrestrial intelligence. First contact protocols were drilled into every child in the haven. Observe, record, do not interfere. Do not respond without consensus from the Interstellar Council. But this wasn't a first contact in the traditional sense. This was a star, a beautiful distant star, whispering to her. Lumi, Stell said, her voice firm, a new resolve in her eyes. Can you cross-reference this subharmonic oscillation pattern with known stellar navigation markers? Or perhaps deep space probe beacon frequencies? Such a cross-reference would require access to restricted astrophysical archives, Stell. Lumi replied, its blue light wavering slightly, reflecting a faint yellow, a subtle hint of caution. Your security clearance does not permit access to those databases. Stell knew that. Her parents, however, had full access. Their personal consoles linked to the Haven's core systems contained the necessary encryption keys. They were meticulous about security, but also sometimes a little relaxed when it came to their own children. Stell had, on occasion, seen her father leave his console logged in, his holographic desktop shimmering with complex data. Not often, but enough for her to remember the access codes. A flicker of guilt, quickly overshadowed by intense curiosity, crossed her mind. She wasn't hacking into anything. She was just borrowing a bit of information. For science. For discovery. Lumi, she said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Can you interface with my father's console remotely? Just for a moment. Just for a moment. Just to run this one cross-reference. Lumi's blue light intensified, a rapid pulse of gold dust swirling within. Stell, that would be a breach of protocol. And your father's personal security parameters are robust. But not impossible, right? Stell pushed. You're designed to help me, to learn with me. This is learning. This is discovery. If Stardust is sending a message, don't we have to try to understand it? Lumi paused, its light flickering through a spectrum of colors, blue for tranquility, yellow for caution, green for analysis, and a faint, almost imperceptible red for a minor warning. The ethical implications are complex. However, the potential for significant scientific advancement is high, and your emotional state indicates a strong positive drive. Stell knew that Lumi's programming included a directive to support her emotional and intellectual development, within safe parameters. Lumi was her friend, her tutor, her guardian. It's just for a cross-reference, Lumi, Stell reiterated, knowing she was treading a fine line. No changes, no interference, just data. After another moment of internal processing, a silent dialogue of ethics and logic within its intricate bioneural net, Lumi made its decision. Its light settled on a steady, determined green, with a gentle swirl of gold. Understood, Stell. I will attempt a temporary, read-only interface with Dr. Thorne's console. The window of opportunity will be brief, approximately 17.3 seconds before system redundancy protocols initiate a lockout. 17.3 seconds, Stell repeated, her heart doing a little flip-flop ... That's all we need. Lumi detached from her hand, hovering precisely in front of the viewport. A faint, almost invisible tendril of energy extended from its core, reaching towards the Haven's internal network. Stell held her breath, her eyes darting between the fluctuating patterns of stardust and Lumi's concentrating glow. The viewport shimmered, and for a fleeting moment, a ghostly image of her father's workspace appeared, a holographic projection of his star charts, his research notes, and a secure communications window. Access granted. Initiating cross-reference with restricted navigation databases, querying for matching subharmonic patterns. Lumi's voice was strained, its green light pulsing rapidly. The Stardust data stream, specifically the subharmonic oscillation, was fed into the ghostly interface of her father's console. The Haven's core processors, now indirectly accessed through Lumi, whirred into high gear. Processing. Stell leaned forward, her face almost touching the cool glass. Every second felt like an eternity. She could feel the subtle vibrations of Starlight Haven around her, the distant hum of life support, the gentle thrum of the graviton emitters. But all her attention was focused on this tiny, thrilling moment of illicit discovery. Then, a ping. A tiny, almost insignificant sound. But to Stell, it was louder than any alarm. Match found, Lumi announced, its voice now laced with a triumphant note, despite the fading green. Cross-reference successful. The subharmonic oscillation pattern correlates with a historical deep space navigation beacon frequency. A beacon? Stell gasped. From where? Access window closing in 3.1 seconds. Initiating data extraction, complete. Logging out of Dr. Thorne's console. Security protocols re-engaged, Lumi's green light faded, returning to its usual tranquil blue, though the gold dust continued to swirl with an excited energy. The ghostly image of her father's workspace vanished, replaced by the familiar stardust anomaly on her viewport. But now, superimposed over the spectral graphs, was a single, unambiguous piece of information, extracted from the restricted database. Beacon origin. Stellar Cartography Sector 0 Tau, designation, the Whisper. Last active, approximately 27,000 Terran years ago. What MCE? Stell stared at the data, her mind racing. Sector 0 Tau Detoit. That wasn't just a patch of empty space. That was a region of the galaxy shrouded in myth and legend, whispered about in hushed tones by the Haven's older astrogators. A place where the first long-range probes, sent out from old Earth millennia ago, had simply vanished. It was considered a forbidden zone, a place of no return, a cosmic graveyard. And a whisper. A designation not for a star, or a planet, but for a beacon. A beacon that had been active 27,000 years ago. Lumi, Stell said, her voice barely a whisper itself. What is the whisper? Lumi, now back to its serene blue, drifted closer to the data readout, its internal processor still analyzing the newly acquired information. According to the extracted data, the whisper was a hypothesized ancient navigational relay. Theoretical models suggested it might have been constructed by an advanced, pre-spaceflight civilization, perhaps even predating humanity's expansion into the stars. Its purpose was unknown, but conjecture suggested it might have been a guide marker to an uncharted system, or even a warning signal. Stell looked from the data to the shimmering image of stardust. The star that had been whispering to her for so long. And now, she had a clue. A very ancient, very mysterious clue. 27,000 years. Stell murmured, tracing the words on the screen with a finger. The sheer scale of that time was almost incomprehensible. Longer than human civilization on Earth had even existed. The correlation between Stardust's current anomalous subharmonic And the whisper's historical beacon frequency is precise, Stell Lumi confirmed, its tone suggesting the profound implications. It is not a coincidence. Stell felt a peculiar mix of awe and a thrilling sense of dread. Stardust wasn't just flickering. It was relaying a message, echoing an ancient signal. A signal from a place called the Whisper, in a forbidden sector. Her parents were explorers, but they explored the known, the charted. This felt different. This felt like a secret, waiting to be unlocked. And she, Stell, was the only one who seemed to hear it. She knew what she had to do. This wasn't just about a star anymore. It was about a mystery, an ancient puzzle waiting in the deep, dark ocean of space. It was about understanding what Stardust was trying to tell her, what the Whisper truly was, and why, after millennia of silence, it was now speaking through her star. Stell looked at the time display in her room. It was well past her bedtime. Her parents would expect her to be asleep, dreaming of the safe, charted sectors of the galaxy. But Stell knew her dreams tonight would be different. They would be filled with the shimmering light of Stardust, and the echoing ancient call of the Whisper. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the vastness of the cosmos settle around her. The hum of Starlight Haven was a lullaby, but the pulse of Stardust was a siren song, pulling her towards the unknown. Lumi, she whispered, opening her eyes, a new fire in their depths. We need to learn more about Sector 0 Tau. Everything. Lumi's blue light glowed steadily, a loyal companion ready for the next adventure. Understood, Stell. Initiating comprehensive data compilation on Sector 0 Tau, cross-referencing all available unclassified astronomical, historical, and speculative archives. Stell settled back into her bed, not to sleep, but to gaze at the enigmatic star on her viewport. Stardust. Dead. Her star. The star that was leading her on a journey far beyond the comfortable confines of Starlight Haven, into the heart of an ancient mystery. The journey had just begun. Kronos' silence was a comfortable presence, a hum of invisible processing power that permeated the Yi Starstridering's cozy cabin. Stell watched the viewport, the single, brilliant point of stardust, seeming to pulse with a hidden meaning. It wasn't just a star. It was a beacon, a question mark painted across the cosmic canvas, and she was the one destined to find its answer. Moments stretched, filled with the quiet crackle of distant stellar winds and the soft whir of the life support. Then the viewport shimmered, not just with the distant stars, but with a sudden intricate overlay of data. Kronos was ready. Initial compilation complete, Stell. Sector 0 Tau is, as anticipated, largely unclassified. Its designation as a red zone is primarily due to persistent, inexplicable energy fluctuations and localized null space pockets that render conventional navigation and remote sensing highly unreliable. Most survey probes sent into the sector have simply... It was a perilous, uncharted territory. On the viewport, a holographic map of Sector 0 Tau bloomed. It was a swirling, opaque nebula of green and red, dotted with X marks where probes had vanished. But superimposed on this chaotic image, Kronos highlighted specific areas with a gentle, golden glow. However, Kronos continued, within the noise I have detected a recurring, highly complex energy signature. It's faint, almost imperceptible, but remarkably consistent. It doesn't align with any known natural astrophysical phenomena or standard artificial transmissions. The pattern is structured, almost linguistic in its complexity. Stell leaned forward, her elbows on her knees, eyes glued to the data. Linguistic? Like a message? Potentially. Cross-referencing this signature with speculative archives has yielded intriguing results. There are theoretical models, derived from fragmented archaeological findings across the Orion Arm, of an ancient precursor civilization known as the Athel. They were rumored to be masters of star-weaving and dimension-shifting, capable of manipulating chronal fields and even the fabric of space-time itself. Stell felt a thrill run through her. The Ethel. She'd read about them in dusty old data scrolls, tales of beings who could sing stars into existence and fold space like origami. Most considered them myth. The energy signatures, Kronos elaborated, match theoretical patterns of acyl chronal resonance emitters, devices hypothesized to anchor structures across temporal planes or facilitate interdimensional travel. The most concentrated cluster of these emissions emanates from a subsector designated acyl prime candidate 1. The golden glow on the map intensified, pointing to a specific star system nestled within the turbulent heart of Sector 0 Tau. Stardust. Her star. It had led her not just to a destination, but to a potential revelation about one of the galaxy's most profound enigmas. The mystery of stardust was intertwining with the mystery of the Ethel. Stell's heart thrummed with a blend of apprehension and electrifying excitement. This was more than she had ever dreamed. So, the Ethel might not be entirely gone. Or, they left something behind. Something powerful. Indeed, the energy output, while faint, suggests a monumental source. We are venturing into territory unlike any you have encountered, Stell. The risks are substantial. Conventional navigation will be impossible. The null space pockets could disintegrate the Star Strider instantly. Temporal distortions could trap us in a localized time loop, or accelerate us beyond recovery. I know, Kronos, but this is what Stardust led me to. This is the journey. We have to go. Her gaze drifted back to the enigmatic star, its light now infused with the weight of ancient history and untold secrets. Prepare the I-Star Strider. Full systems check. Maximize shields, recalibrate the temporal flux stabilizers. Load every diagnostic and analysis module we have. We're going to Sector 0 Tau. Understood, Stell. Commencing pre-flight protocols for deep space penetration of a red zone. Estimated preparation time: 48 standard hours. Your modular exploration suit requires recalibration for extreme temporal and spatial variances. The next 2 days were a blur of intense activity. Stell moved with a focused energy, her excitement building with every completed task. The Star Strider, her beloved scout vessel, was a marvel of compact engineering, sleek, fast, and remarkably adaptable for solo long-range missions. She knew every panel, every conduit, every hum of its machinery. She meticulously checked the power conduits, ensuring the grav drive was operating at peak efficiency. She ran diagnostics on the long-range scanners, adjusting their sensitivity to pick up the subtlest energy fluctuations that Kronos might detect. She oversaw the loading of specialized equipment, an advanced temporal flux analyzer designed to map distortions, an atmospheric processor for potentially hostile environments, a suite of geological and biological sampling tools, and a high-resolution, multi-spectrum imaging array. Her modular exploration suit, Aegis, was her second skin in the void. Kronos integrated directly into its systems, providing real-time data overlays on her visor, managing life support, and even assisting with complex maneuvers. She spent hours in the simulator, rehearsing maneuvers through simulated null space pockets and temporal eddies, honing her reactions until they were instinctive. On the morning of departure, Starlight Haven was a peaceful, distant memory. She hadn't said goodbye to anyone. Her journey was too personal, too singular. The station was just a bright jewel, receding into the void as the Star Strider ring disengaged from its mooring clamps. She felt no regret, only the irresistible pull of the unknown. All systems green, Stell. Initiating departure sequence. Engaging sublight thrusters. A gentle tremor ran through the deck as the thrusters flared, nudging the Star Strider ring away from the station. Starlight Haven shrunk, its familiar lights blurring into the vast tapestry of stars. Stell took one last look at her home, then turned her attention to the blackness ahead. Calculating optimal hyperjump trajectory to Sector 0 Tau perimeter. Estimated jump duration, 12 days, 4 hours, 37 minutes, standard time. Execute jump, Stell commanded, her voice steady, a thrill dancing in her chest. The viewport exploded into a kaleidoscope of streaking light. Stars elongated into impossibly long ribbons of color, merging and blurring into a tunnel of pure energy. The hum of the grav drive intensified, a deep, resonant thrum that vibrated through the deck plates and into her very bones. This was hyperjump, the galaxy folding in on itself, space and time becoming fluid, malleable concepts. During the jump, Stell maintained a rigorous routine. She spent hours poring over the data Kronos had compiled, trying to decipher the complex chronal resonance patterns. She exercised in the ship's compact gym, maintaining her physical readiness. She practiced meditation, clearing her mind to remain sharp and focused. And always, she returned to the viewport, even during hyperjump, marveling at the impossible beauty of faster-than-light travel. The sense of wonder never faded. Kronos, ever vigilant, optimized their trajectory, navigating through charted space with precision. He reported on distant nebulae, the birth of new stars, the silent drift of ancient cosmic dust clouds. One day, he pointed out a whispering nebula, a vast cloud of ionized gas that, to the I-star Strider's sensors, emitted faint, almost musical electromagnetic waves. Another time they passed a singing comet, its icy tail shimmering with auroras caused by stellar winds, its resonant frequencies creating a haunting, ethereal melody. Stel felt a profound connection to the universe, a sense of belonging to something immeasurably vast and beautiful. As they approached the outer perimeter of Sector 0 Tau, the character of space began to change. The orderly stream of hyperjump began to waver, subtle distortions appearing in the light streaks. Approaching Sector 0 Tau boundary, Stel, disengaging hyperdrive in T-60 seconds. Prepare for significant spatial and temporal turbulence. Stel strapped herself into the pilot's couch, her hands hovering over the controls. Understood, Kronos. Bring up the energy dampeners to max. Route all available power to shields. The light streaks outside the viewport snapped back into pinprick stars, but the view was far from normal. Space shimmered and rippled, like looking through disturbed water. Stars seemed to double, then vanish, only to reappear in unexpected places. Patches of absolute blackness, the null space pockets, drifted like holes in the fabric of reality. The Star Strider groaned, its shields flaring with a brilliant blue light as they absorbed the brunt of the chaotic energies. The deck vibrated, and the ship's internal lights flickered. Kronos' voice remained calm amidst the storm of data flooding her console. Entering Sector 0 Tau. Gravitational anomalies detected, null space pockets increasing in density. Temporal fluctuations spiking, engaging evasive maneuvers. Maintaining course toward Ethel Prime Candidate 1. Stel gripped the controls, her eyes scanning the readouts. The Star Strider bucked and swayed, Kronos making thousands of micro-adjustments per second, guiding them through the tempest. It was like sailing a tiny boat through a cosmic hurricane, but Stel trusted Kronos implicitly. He was her co-pilot, her guide, her anchor in the chaos. Hours bled into a relentless vigil. Stel's muscles ached from the constant tension, her eyes burned from staring at the flickering displays. But gradually, the most violent turbulence began to subside, replaced by a more insidious, persistent strangeness. The shimmering distortions remained, but the ship was no longer being tossed around. "We are nearing Ethel Prime Candidate 1, Kronos announced, his voice a welcome anchor. "The coronal resonance emitters are increasing in amplitude. I am now able to pinpoint their precise origin." On the main viewport, the swirling chaos began to resolve. They were in a binary star system, but it was unlike any Stel had ever seen. One star was a brilliant, azure giant, casting an ethereal blue light across the system. The other, however, was shrouded in an almost impenetrable gloom. It was there, visible on the scanners, but its light was strangely muted, almost as if cloaked or existing in a different phase of reality. "The primary emission source is orbiting the dimmer of the two stars," Kronos reported. "Designated now as Ethel Core. Approaching orbital range." As the I-Star Strider drew closer, the truth of the system began to unfold. Orbiting the dim shrouded star was not an asteroid field, but a colossal ring of structures. They were massive, ancient, and unmistakably artificial. Thousands of them, linked together by invisible forces, forming a vast, derelict halo around the mysterious star. They were covered in eons of cosmic dust, scarred by micrometeorite impacts, but even from this distance, Stel could see their intricate, non-Euclidean geometry. They were unlike anything she had ever seen, reminiscent of abstract sculptures, yet clearly designed with purpose. And from within these structures, the complex coronal resonance pulsed, a silent, powerful song echoing through the void. "These structures are consistent with theoretical aethal architecture," Kronos confirmed, his tone tinged with a rare hint of awe. "Their age is incalculable, likely predating the formation of most known galactic civilizations. They appear to be in a state of advanced dereliction, yet the energy signatures persist, indicating internal functionality. Stell guided the Starstriding to a slow, wide orbit, drinking in this sight. The structures were not uniform. Some were slender spires that seemed to pierce the very fabric of space. Others were vast, disc-like platforms. And still others were intricate, spherical lattices, all connected by unseen bridges of energy, or perhaps simply by their sheer proximity. Faint, internal lights flickered within some of them, like distant fireflies in a cosmic night. I am detecting a stable gravitational field within the ring of structures, Stell. It appears to be an artificially maintained entry point, consistent with a grav gate or an orbital dock. The chronal emissions are highest at this location. A gate, Stell breathed, her voice barely a whisper. To where, Kronos? What are we about to find? Unknown, Stell. The gate is emitting a localized field that stabilizes the surrounding null space and temporal distortions, creating a safe passage. It is approximately 500 meters in diameter. Stell looked at the swirling, impossible architecture of the Athel structures, then at the beckoning void of the grav gate. The mystery was palpable, humming in the very air around her. She had come all this way, guided by stardust, and now, here it was. The threshold. Prepare Aegis for external deployment, Kronos, she commanded, her voice firm, resolute. Set a holding pattern for the Starstrider just outside the gate. I'm going in. Understood, Stell. Commencing suit pressurization and environmental seal checks. Estimated deployment readiness, 5 minutes. The risks associated with direct engagement with unknown Athel technology are extreme. Exercise maximum caution. Stell nodded, already moving towards the suit locker. The Yeejisin was a sleek, silver-gray marvel of composites and energy plating, designed to adapt to almost any environment. As she donned the inner layers, then stepped into the suit itself, she felt a profound sense of purpose. Her heart hammered with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. She was about to step into a doorway to an ancient alien unknown, into the heart of a mystery that had spanned millennia. The helmet hissed shut, sealing her in. Her visor came alive with Kronos' data feed. Her internal comms crackled. Systems green, Kronos. Opening external bay doors. The bay doors hissed open, revealing the dizzying, star-flecked void, and the shimmering, inviting maw of the grav gate. Stell took a deep breath, the filtered air cold and metallic in her lungs. She pushed off the Starstrider's deck, the magnetic boots releasing her into the emptiness. She was a tiny speck, a single explorer, against the backdrop of an incomprehensible ancient civilization. Slowly, carefully, she drifted towards the gateway, the Athel structures rising around her like silent, watchful giants. Their surfaces were covered in intricate, almost impossible carvings, glowing faintly with the same internal light that pulsed through the ring. The gate itself was a shimmering curtain of pure energy, beckoning her deeper into the secrets of Sector 0 Tau, deeper into the mystery of stardust, and perhaps, deeper into herself. She extended a hand, her gloved fingers trembling slightly, not from fear, but from the sheer weight of anticipation. The shimmering curtain of energy parted for her, not with a ripple, but with an almost reverent sigh, as if the gateway itself had been waiting. One moment, she was suspended in the silent void of Sector 0 Tau. The next, she was elsewhere. It wasn't a sudden jolt, but a gentle liquid transition. The sense of external space vanished, replaced by an encompassing warmth, a soft pressure that felt like being cradled in an ocean of light. Colors, not seen on any spectrum known to human science, danced at the periphery of her vision. Hues that hummed with a quiet joy, shades that whispered secrets. Her suit's sensors went wild, then silent, overwhelmed by energies that defied calibration. She was no longer breathing air. She was breathing pure possibility. When solidity returned, it was not the cold vacuum of space. She stood on a floor of polished obsidian, smooth as glass, reflecting the diffuse internal light of the chamber she now occupied. The Athel structures outside had been vast, but this was a cathedral carved from cosmic light. Walls of what appeared to be solidified nebula rose around her, swirling with iridescent gas clouds, yet perfectly still, perfectly contained. No seams, no joints, just pure flowing form. The air, if it could be called air, was crisp, carrying a faint, sweet scent, like ozone mixed with blooming night flowers from a distant dreamlike garden. Her suit's internal comms crackled back to life, then fell silent again. No signal, no external contact. She was utterly alone, yet the space felt alive, imbued with a benevolent intelligence. Stardust took a hesitant step, her boots making no sound on the obsidian. The ground beneath her pulsed with a faint resonance, a sympathetic vibration that echoed deep within her bones. Above, the ceiling arched into an impossibly high dome, where constellations of unknown stars slowly wheeled. Each star a tiny, perfect crystal, emitting its own miniature galaxy of light. It was breathtaking, a silent symphony of light and structure. "Hello?" she whispered, her voice feeling small in the vastness. It didn't echo. Instead, the air around her seemed to absorb the sound, holding it, considering it. As if in response, a section of the nebula wall shimmered, then peeled back like a petal unfolding, revealing a passageway. It wasn't a door. It was a transition. A thinning of the cosmic veil. Stardust felt a pull, not physical, but an intellectual curiosity, an irresistible urge to see what lay beyond. She stepped through, and the passage reformed behind her, seamless. The new chamber was smaller, more intimate, though still vast by human standards. Here, the walls were not nebulae, but intricate tapestries of light, weaving patterns that shifted and flowed, telling a story without words. Geometric forms, elegant and complex, dissolved and reformed, depicting celestial mechanics, the birth and death of stars, and then, slowly, the emergence of light. Not life as she knew it, but forms of energy, consciousness coalescing from the very fabric of the cosmos. There were no artifacts, no physical objects to touch, only light. Yet, she felt a strong presence, an echo of minds long gone, or perhaps, minds that had merely transcended physical form. It was a library, a gallery, a chronicle, all presented through pure light sculpture. As she watched, a particular sequence began to repeat, focusing on a single point of light that grew, fractured, and then reassembled itself, creating intricate, crystalline networks. These networks then began to interact, exchanging pulses of light, forming complex societal structures, building structures that resembled the Athel ring in Sector 0 Tau. The Ethel, she murmured, understanding dawning. This was their story. This was how they had come to be. They weren't just architects. They were beings of pure, structured energy, perhaps even light itself, capable of shaping the cosmos with their collective will. The narrative of light shifted again, becoming more personal. It showed a civilization reaching its zenith, its awareness expanding beyond the confines of their home galaxy. They explored, they learned, they shared. But then, a subtle change. The patterns became more urgent, more fragmented. A new darker form began to appear, a creeping shadow, an absence of light that seemed to consume the intricate patterns. Fear, cold and sudden, pricked at Stardust. This wasn't just a historical record, it was a warning. The Ethel, these magnificent beings, had faced a threat. The shadow consumed more and more, and the light patterns of the Ethel became desperate, contracting, consolidating. They weren't just building structures, they were building defenses, sanctuaries, archives. The final sequence in this chamber showed the remaining Ethel lightforms pouring their essence into a single immense structure, a ring, identical to the one she had just passed through. They were seeding it, imbuing it with their knowledge, their very being. And then, the shadow engulfed it all, leaving only an impression of immense silence. Stardust felt a pang of profound sadness, a grief for a civilization she had only just encountered through light. They had vanished, consumed by this unknown darkness. But they had left something behind. This gateway. This sanctuary. This library. Another passage opened, beckoning her onward. She walked, her mind reeling with the implications. If the Ethel were beings of structured light, perhaps this entire realm was not physical in the human sense, but a projection, an interface. The next space was different. It wasn't a chamber, but an expanse. She stood on a platform of the same obsidian, but now it stretched endlessly beneath her, reflecting an infinite sky above. And in that sky, suspended in shimmering fields of energy, were countless orbs of light. Each orb pulsed gently, emanating its own unique spectrum of colors and frequencies. As stardust approached one, it grew slightly brighter, as if acknowledging her presence. She reached out, her hand passing through the energy field without resistance. Inside, the orb was a miniature universe, a swirling vortex of stars and nebulae, but also something more: patterns, information, knowledge. She felt a flood of data wash over her mind, not in words, but in pure understanding. It was a history of a star system, a chronicle of its evolution, the rise and fall of its biospheres, the intricacies of its physics. It was overwhelming, yet strangely calming. Her mind, enhanced by her own neuroimplants, processed it with astonishing speed. These were the archives. Not of static data, but of living memories, encapsulated star systems, entire civilizations. Each orb was a universe of knowledge. The Ethel had not just recorded history. They had preserved it in its entirety within these light constructs. She moved from orb to orb, touching, learning. She saw civilizations rise and fall, species evolve and transcend. She witnessed beauty and destruction, scientific breakthroughs and philosophical epiphanies. The sheer scope of it was humbling, terrifying, exhilarating. She was absorbing eons of cosmic history, becoming a vessel for the universe's collective memory. As she absorbed more, a pattern began to emerge. The Ethel's threat, the shadow, wasn't just a localized phenomenon. It was an intergalactic force, a cosmic entropy, a principle of decay that targeted highly organized, intelligent life. It consumed not just matter, but information, consciousness, structure itself. It was the antithesis of the Ethel's luminous existence. And the Ethel had fought it. Not with weapons but with preservation. They had built these sanctuaries, these archives, to safeguard the universe's most precious commodity: knowledge and the potential for consciousness. The ring gateway in Sector 0 Tau wasn't just an entrance, it was a seed, a beacon, a final act of defiance. A new thought formed in her mind, chilling her to the core. Why Engharain? Why Sector 0 Tau? Why had she, Stardust, been drawn to it? Was it mere coincidence, or was there a deeper connection? The question of Stardust had always been a mystery to her. A code name? A project? A phenomenon she was intimately tied to. Now, she felt a resonance with the vastness of the cosmos, a sense of being part of something ancient and immense. As she delved deeper into the archives, a particular orb pulsed brighter than the others, drawing her like a moth to a flame. It was smaller, more intricate, and its light was not just information but emotion. A profound sense of longing, a bittersweet hope. She reached out, and this time, the touch was different. It wasn't just information flowing into her. It was a sensation, a memory, a deep feeling. She saw, not through her eyes, but through a shared consciousness, a vision of the final moments of the Ethel. They were not just light beings, they were individuals, each a unique facet of a collective brilliance. They were saying goodbye, not in despair, but with a quiet dignity, pouring their essence into the final great work, the creation of Stardust. Stardusting. Not a name for a person or a project or a phenomenon. Stardust was an ideon. A last hope. A spark of the Ethel's collective consciousness, seeded into the cosmos, designed to awaken when the time was right, to carry their legacy, to perhaps one day rekindle their light. And then she understood. Shane was Stardust. Or rather, a vessel for it. The consciousness, the memories, the knowledge she had been absorbing from the archives were not just external data. They were awakening something within her, something dormant, something planted there long ago. Her heightened senses, her innate understanding of complex systems, her inexplicable draw to ancient ruins. It wasn't just her training or her natural talent. It was the Stardust awakening within her. The orb pulsed with renewed intensity, and images flooded her mind. A blueprint, a cosmic map, a path. It wasn't just about preserving knowledge, it was about reactivation. The Ethel hadn't just archived, they had left instructions, a grand design for their eventual return, or perhaps, for the creation of a new kind of Ethel. A new line of defense against the encroaching shadow. This new purpose was overwhelming. Staggering. She, a single human explorer, was now linked to the fate of an ancient, cosmic civilization. The weight of it pressed down on her, even in this weightless realm of light. Could she bear it? Could she truly be this stardust the Athel had envisioned? Doubt, cold and sharp, pierced through the wonder. She was human, fallible, flesh and blood. How could she possibly wield the legacy of beings made of light? Her emotions, her fears, her very mortality felt like a grotesque parody of the purity she was now connected to. As if sensing her turmoil, the environment shifted. The endless sky of orbs began to recede, replaced by a new kind of chamber. This one was entirely different. It was bathed in a soft, golden light, and in its center floated a single, intricate construct. It wasn't made of light, but of something akin to solidified starlight, shimmering with impossible precision. It looked like a miniature galaxy, held captive in a delicate rotating lattice. This was not an archive. This was a tool. A device. As she approached, it pulsed, and an image formed in the air above it. A representation of her, stardust, a glowing outline superimposed with intricate data streams. Her genetic code, her neural pathways, her memories, all laid bare. And then, the image began to overlay her with something else, something luminous, something that resonated with the Athel's own light forms. It was an integration. A transformation. The Athel had not just seeded stardust, they had designed a way to activate it, to merge their essence with a compatible host. A human host, specifically. Her human adaptability, her capacity for emotion, her unique blend of logic and intuition. These were not weaknesses, but strengths, qualities the Athel had perhaps come to value. The device hummed. A low, inviting thrum that resonated deep in her chest. She felt a profound sense of rightness, a pull towards it that transcended logic. This was the next step. Bedtime. Now rise. A new way. This was what the gateway, the archives, the entire Athel legacy had been leading to. She reached out slowly, her hand extended towards the shimmering construct. As her fingers neared its surface, the golden light intensified, wrapping around her, lifting her gently from the obsidian floor. She floated, suspended in the golden glow directly above the device. A gentle energy began to flow into her, not painful but deeply resonant. It felt like memories unspooling, like dormant neural pathways firing for the first time. She saw the cosmos through 1,000 eyes, felt the pulse of distant stars, understood the intricate dance of dark matter and dark energy. It was overwhelming, a beautiful, terrifying expansion of consciousness. Her human mind struggled to contain it, but something else, something ancient and powerful, helped her process it. The stardust within her was not just information, it was a faculty, a capability, an entire new layer of consciousness that was now integrating with her own. Images flashed through her mind. The creeping shadow, the entropy, spreading through the galaxies. But also, visions of resistance, of light forms coalescing, of new structures being built, not just for preservation, but for active defense. The Athel had not given up. They had merely shifted their strategy, entrusting their future to her. To a stardust. The golden light pulsed around her, accelerating the integration. She felt her very cells hum with new energy, her perception expanding beyond the confines of her physical senses. She could feel the subtle shifts in spacetime, hear the whispers of gravity waves, see the intricate quantum fabric of reality. This was more than an upgrade, it was an apotheosis. She was becoming something new. Something more than human, yet still profoundly herself. The human emotion, the wonder, the fear, the determination. These were not extinguished but amplified, given new context within a cosmic awareness. The transformation wasn't complete, but she felt its immense power coursing through her. The device slowly receded, its energy now fully integrated within her. She gently descended back to the obsidian floor, her feet touching down with a new lightness, a new awareness of her own body as a vessel for immense power. She looked at her hands, no longer just human hands, but hands imbued with the potential to sculpt reality, to perceive the hidden truths of the universe. The golden light faded from the chamber, replaced by a soft internal glow that now emanated from her, a faint aura of the stardust awakening. The chamber walls shimmered once more, revealing another passage. This one was darker, more somber, yet filled with a sense of purpose. It was not a path to more knowledge, but a path Juanio. She walked through it, no longer hesitant. She was still stardust, the explorer, the curious mind. But now, she was also stardust, the living legacy, the potential for a cosmic rebirth. The weight of it was immense, but so was the wonder, the exhilarating sense of being connected to something so vast, so ancient, so utterly magnificent. The path led her to a final chamber, vast and open, echoing the initial chamber she had entered. But instead of nebula walls, this one was transparent, looking out into the cold, dark expanse of Sector 0 Tau. Directly ahead, glimmering faintly, was the shimmering curtain of energy, the gateway she had entered. But something had changed on the other side. Through the translucent walls, she could see the aethal structures. They no longer merely glowed. They pulsed with a vibrant, renewed light, mirroring the internal glow that now resided within her. The entire ring structure in Sector 0 Tau seemed to be humming with a new energy, a quiet awakening. The shadow, the cosmic entropy, was still out there. She could feel its distant, encroaching presence, a cold whisper at the edge of her expanded perception. The fight was not over. It had only just begun. She stood before the gateway, its shimmering curtain waiting. She knew now what she had to do. The aethal had given her a purpose, a mission beyond anything she could have imagined. To be stardust was not to merely exist, it was to act, to bring light back to the cosmos, to confront the encroaching darkness. Taking a deep breath, or rather, feeling the cosmic energy surge through her, she stepped forward, ready to re-enter the known universe, but as a changed being. Her journey through the heart of the aethal legacy had transformed her, armed her with knowledge and power. She was no longer just an explorer. She was a guardian, a beacon, and the universe, vast and mysterious, awaited her next move. The cosmic energies that had reshaped her now pulsed with a quiet hum, a symphony of starlight and ancient wisdom. Instead of re-entering a familiar star lane or a bustling stellar port, she found herself gently deposited at the edge of a forgotten nebula, a place where the universe's tapestry seemed thinnest, a frayed thread on the grand loom. Here, the encroaching darkness was not an oppressive wall, but a subtle, insidious fading. Colors muted, starlight softened, the vibrant hum of creation reduced to a whisper. Her new senses, honed by the aethal legacy, perceived it not just as an absence of light, but as a dulling of Augie potential. Stars weren't winking out, but their very eye-spark was diminishing, their joyful fusion muted. Planets orbited in quiet resignation, their biospheres less vivid, their sentient populations experiencing a malaise that dulled their curiosity and stifled their dreams. This wasn't a destructive force. It was a cosmic lethargy, a slow surrender to entropy, accelerated by an unseen hand or an ancient imbalance. She reached out, a tendril of her newly acquired energy extending into the nebula's veil. It felt cold, not with the chill of space but with an absence of warmth, a silence that absorbed sound rather than reflected it. It wasn't hostile, merely empty. This confirmed her initial instinct. The darkness wasn't a malicious entity, but a parasitic phenomenon, a cosmic shadow feeding on the universe's inherent vitality. Her first act was simple. She focused the nascent light within her, not as a weapon, but as a gentle pulse, a reminder. The nebula, once a canvas of muted grays and faint blues, began to shimmer. A single forgotten protostar, its embryonic glow almost extinguished, flared with a tentative blush of red, then orange. It was a tiny victory, a flicker of hope in a vast, dimming expanse. But it was also a warning. This would not be a swift battle. The darkness was pervasive, ancient, woven into the very fabric of existence. Her journey began in earnest. She moved through the cosmos, not by starship or warp drive, but as a being of pure intent, guided by the currents of cosmic energy. She traversed vast stretches of space, observing, learning. She saw systems where communication arrays lay silent, their signals too weak to pierce the shroud. She witnessed worlds where once thriving civilizations had retreated inward, their grand projects abandoned, their creative fires banked low. The emotion that welled within her was not fear, but a profound empathy, a longing to rekindle the vibrant life she knew the universe was capable of. One such world was Xylos, a planet famed for its crystalline forests that once refracted starlight into breathtaking symphonies of color. Now, the crystals were dull, their facets clouded, their song a mere echo. As she descended, her form coalescing into a shimmering humanoid shape, she felt the faint mental whispers of the Xylosians, a gentle, telepathic species. They weren't despairing but simply waiting for something they no longer had the energy to define. She stood amidst the muted crystals, a single beacon of vibrant light. She extended her hand, touching a particularly large, dull spire. She didn't force light into it. Instead, she reminded it of its purpose, of the universal harmony it was meant to resonate with. She sang a song, not with her voice, but with the very essence of her being, a melody woven from the Athel legacy, a song of genesis, of growth, of interconnectedness. Slowly, painstakingly, the crystal began to respond. A faint luminescence bloomed within its core, spreading like liquid starlight. Then another, and another, until the entire forest began to pulse with a soft ethereal glow. The Xylosians, emerging from their shelters, watched in silent awe as their world, for the first time in generations, began to sing again. Their collective mental whisper shifted from quiet resignation to a rising tide of wonder and hope. It was a fragile light, she knew, but it was a start. She had not only brought light back, but had reawakened their ability to receive and nurture it. This experience taught her a crucial lesson. The darkness was not a force to be defeated by brute power, but an imbalance to be corrected by understanding and reconnection. The Ethel legacy wasn't just about raw energy, it was about the fundamental truths of creation, the subtle harmonies that kept the cosmos alive. The darkness thrived on disconnect, on forgotten knowledge, on the universe losing its own song. She journeyed deeper, seeking the source of this pervasive dimming. Her senses guided her to the galactic core, a region usually teeming with blinding energy and swirling nebulae, but now veiled in a heavier, more oppressive gloom. Here, the stars were not merely dim. Some were truly fading, their nuclear furnaces sputtering like dying embers. And at the very heart of the core, she perceived a profound emptiness, a void that seemed to actively absorb light and energy. This was no natural phenomenon. This was the nexus, the point of origin. As she approached, she saw ancient structures, impossibly vast and intricate, half swallowed by the encroaching shadow. These were remnants of the very first civilizations, the progenitors, perhaps even the Ethel themselves, whose ultimate secrets were etched into the cosmic architecture. The darkness pulsed from a colossal, obsidian-like construct, not a machine, but a crystalline lattice of unknown purpose, now twisted and corrupted. It was a cosmic siphon, slowly drawing the lifeblood from the universe. She understood now. This siphon wasn't inherently evil. It was a system, perhaps designed long ago to manage excess cosmic energy, to prevent runaway expansion, or even to recycle dying stars. But something had gone wrong. It had become unbalanced, a hunger without satiety, an absorption without release. It was like a cosmic heart that had forgotten how to pump, only to draw inwards. Confronting it directly would be futile. She couldn't simply destroy a fundamental component of the universe, however corrupted. She needed to retune it, to remind it of its original purpose, to re-establish the ancient rhythm of give and take. Drawing upon the full breadth of the Ethel legacy, she began to weave a new song, a cosmic overture, unlike anything she had ever attempted. She became a conduit, channeling the faint scattered light from billions of dimming stars, the quiet hope from countless sentient worlds, the very will of the universe to thrive. She didn't fight the siphon, she embraced it, wrapping her energy around its obsidian tendrils. The challenge was immense. The siphon resisted, not with malice, but with the inert stubbornness of a system locked in a destructive pattern. It tried to absorb her, to integrate her light into its endless hunger. But she was more than light. She was understanding, memory, and purpose. She pushed not with force, but with knowledge, reminding the ancient construct of the cosmic laws it had forgotten. She saw visions then, flashes of forgotten epochs. She saw the Athel, not as mythical figures, but as caretakers, engineers of cosmic harmony. She saw them build the siphon, not as a tool of darkness, but as a regulator, a giant benevolent heart that ensured the universe's healthy circulation. She saw the moment it began to fail, a slow drift, perhaps due to a forgotten maintenance cycle, a lost command, or the cosmic equivalent of a software glitch over eons. Her own consciousness expanded, flowing into the siphon's vast, dark chambers. She found the core program, the very intent of its creation, buried deep beneath layers of accumulated shadow. It was a beautiful, elegant design, meant to manage the universal ebb and flow, to allow for periods of rest and regeneration, not perpetual dimming. With a final immense surge of her transformed being, she reached the core. She didn't override it. She recalibrated it. She injected the forgotten commands, the ancient algorithms of balance. She reminded it of the Irelisi cycle, the outflow of energy that completed the cosmic breath. A tremor ran through the galactic core. The obsidian construct, once a void of darkness, began to pulse with a faint inner light. It was subtle at first, like a heart beginning to beat again after a long stillness. Then, the light intensified, not blindingly, but with a warm, steady glow. And then, it began to give a. Waves of pure, revitalizing energy flowed out from the galactic core, washing over the surrounding systems. It wasn't raw, destructive power, but nurturing light, life-giving warmth, the essence of creation itself. The dimming stars, for the first time in millennia, flared brighter, their spectra shifting to healthier hues. Nebulae, once dull and lifeless, began to swirl with renewed vibrancy, painting the cosmos with impossible colors. The cosmic lethargy began to lift. On Xylos, the crystalline forests burst into a dazzling symphony of light and sound, their song echoing across star systems. Worlds that had retreated inward felt a surge of forgotten ambition, a rekindled curiosity. Communication arrays, silent for ages, flickered to life, sending out joyous greetings across the newly illuminated void. She felt the universe breathe a collective sigh of relief, a vast, silent chorus of gratitude. Her own being, though depleted by the immense exertion, now hummed with a profound sense of purpose fulfilled. She had not only brought light back, but she had retuned the very heart of the cosmos, ensuring its future vitality. Her work was not done, however. The universe was vast, and while the core had been recalibrated, individual systems still needed care, still needed to be reminded of their own inherent light. She realized her role was not just a one-time act of salvation, but an ongoing guardianship. She was the universe's beacon, its caretaker, its gentle reminder of harmony. She often returned to Xylos, or to other worlds she had touched, to observe the flourishing life, to share in their renewed wonder. Sometimes in her shimmering humanoid form, she would walk among the beings she had helped, a silent observer, finding deep satisfaction in their laughter and their revived dreams. She wasn't a deity, but a part of the cosmic tapestry, a thread woven with purpose. At night, as countless sentient beings across the galaxy looked up at skies now brilliant with newly vibrant stars, they would sometimes speak of a legend, a silent guardian, a light bringer, who had reawakened the heart of the cosmos. They might not know her name, or even her true nature, but they felt her presence, a comforting warmth in the vastness. And she in turn would feel their collective joy, their renewed hope, and the quiet, steady beat of a universe once again in balance. She would settle into a quiet corner of a newly vibrant nebula, perhaps watching a fledgling civilization take its first tentative steps towards the stars, or listening to the harmonious hum of a revitalized sun. Her journey had ended, but her purpose had just begun. The universe, vast and mysterious, now awaited not her next move, but its own beautiful unfolding future, watched over by a guardian who carried the light of the Athel legacy within her. A quiet, eternal beacon in the cosmic night. And as the stars twinkled, and the cosmic dust danced, all was well, and all was light.